It looks like a massive trade is incoming for the Toronto Raptors. As reports have come out, Masai Ujiri and the Raptors front office are looking to trade into this year's NBA draft lottery. And obviously, the Toronto Raptors have a ton of tradable pieces, tradable assets to facilitate one of these deals. And there are a few guys specifically in the lottery that would be perfect fits in regards to players that Masai Ujiri in the front office would be targeting, would be interesting, given our current roster construction and our history of draft selections in the past. So we're going to break down what these reports are saying, whether or not this deal can actually happen with the upper tier players, and who the Raptors would likely be targeting in the lottery for one of these trades to happen. Because obviously, Masai Ujiri is going to have his eyes on one of these dudes if he's trading up in the NBA draft. So what's the report? What's coming out regarding this sort of news? Well, Kevin O'Connor has come out and said that Portland is trying to secure 2 top 10 picks in this year's NBA draft, while Toronto and Cleveland are angling to get into the lottery. Now, if you're not familiar with the entire story, the scenario where the Toronto Raptors are at, despite the fact this team had an absolutely disastrous end of the year, completed the tank in 2024, this team did not keep their draft pick for this season. And it went to the San Antonio Spurs as it was traded away to acquire Jakob Poeltl a season prior, so the Raptors were without their draft pick. Now, they got one in the Pascal Siakam trade, so they will be selecting number 19th overall, assuming no other trades and that pick doesn't get dealt or anything like that, and we will be selecting 31st overall, as that pick was acquired from the New York Knicks, the Detroit Pistons, first number 1 pick in the second round. So that's the current state of the Raptors draft capital, despite the fact we were struggling last year. And we look at the lottery, we look at the potential teams the Raptors could be looking at in terms of trading up. Unlikely to get the top 2 picks, the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards, but there are some news that some of the other teams out here in the lottery are willing to play ball with potential trade packages. And one of them, we discussed in a video this morning, actually, and it's basically the Grizzlies are expected to explore potential return for the number 9 overall pick, sources have said. Again, that doesn't mean they'll end up trading the pick or they're trading out of the lottery. They will be looking at everything, sources have said. But their core returns healthy next season. They are set to compete again near the top of the Western Conference in something of a gap year that they had this season, and seeing what kind of veteran they can bring in and trade might make some sense. So Zach Lowe has linked the Memphis Grizzlies as a team that could be making a trade, and the Houston Rockets are also a squad that potentially are making a deal. As the Rockets reportedly want to trade a 2024 lottery pick for future assets. So if we're looking at these picks, the Rockets and the Grizzlies seem like the 2 teams that are most likely to make some trades. I mean, we can look at other teams in this list. The Spurs are rebuilding. They're a team, and they have 2 picks in the lottery. The Wizards and the Hawks, they aren't going to trade out the top 2 given the assets we have, unless we're giving up something substantial. The Rockets are a team that's looking to compete right now, given their acquisitions of Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, but still have a younger core that they want to develop. Sengun, Jabari Smith, all those types of guys. But the Detroit Pistons, no one really knows what they're going to do. The Hornets in a similar boat. The Blazers are trying to rebuild and retool at this point now as well. So the Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz, the Grizzlies and the Houston Rockets make the most sense. The Utah Jazz also could be a team that's interested in terms of making a deal. The Bulls seem to be all over the place with this type of news and topics as well. So what could the Raptors do to actually make one of these trades happen? Well, I made a whole video before this news came out this morning on basically some of the deals that could go down. Jakob Poeltl, obviously, to the Memphis Grizzlies just makes a ton of sense. A lot of signs point to a deal like that actually going down, and now that's even more true, right? Watch the video I made this morning on that whole scenario. But obviously, Jakob Poeltl averaging 11 points per game, 9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.5 blocks, is a really established, solid center in the NBA. He's 7 foot, only 28 years old. He's under contract for the next couple seasons, so is a prime asset for the Toronto Raptors to potentially make a deal with. And then you also have the other guy that a lot of people have been bringing up in potential Raptors trades, and that's Bruce Brown, who's averaging 11 points per game last season, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. He could be unrestricted if we don't pick up his option, but I think the Raptors want to keep that trade asset of Bruce Brown, just a 27-year-old that was just formerly a guy that won a championship with the Denver Nuggets and was a key player on that roster. So essentially, those are the assets that the Toronto Raptors have to play with, in this sort of scenario that they do trade into the lottery. And frankly, I saw some comments about Jakob Poeltl. Doesn't make sense to trade him or not. Well, there's even more fuel to the fire for a Jakob Poeltl trade because, frankly, the guy doesn't want to be on a rebuilding team. If we're trading into the lottery, that signals more and more that we're trying to rebuild. Poeltl said this directly at this year's trade deadline, that not necessarily about wanting to deal away from the Toronto Raptors after all the trades that went down, but the only thing that was important to me is that I want to be on a team that could play and compete, play competitive basketball. As long as it's not a team that is really actively trying to tank, I guess that's what I'm trying for me. Like, I want to play on a team that's trying to win every single night. So for me, even though there's some changes and we lost some really good players, I think we're still on course where we're trying to build around the team in the right way and right now, and we're not hunting for a number 1 overall draft pick. You know what I mean? So as long as that's the case, I'm going to be happy here. I'm going to be contributing to this new Raptors team, this new project that we're starting. So Poeltl, this happened right as the trade deadline occurred. This is before we lost a ton of games. We took all those L's. Now, Jakob Poeltl went down with injury. So he is a guy that maybe healthy. This team would have been a bit more competitive to close out last season. All the words spoken from Masai Ujiri to the public indicate that was the case with the Toronto Raptors. But if we trade into the lottery, we deal away some of these pieces, Jakob Poeltl is not going to be on this completely rebuilding squad. And Darko Rajaković said we're going to be competitive probably in 2 to 3 seasons. So that seems like, given what the front office is doing, and what Darko Rajaković is saying, that doesn't align with what Jakob Poeltl is sort of able to provide. So that seems to me that if we're going down this route, Jakob Poeltl is probably going to get dealt, even more so than I thought this morning when I made that initial video. All signs point to this. Well, who could the Toronto Raptors be targeting in a potential Jakob Poeltl deal? Because the Grizzlies seem like the more realistic target. Obviously, maybe if we could get a top 3 pick, then you get Donovan Clingan, which would be a really cool pickup. But frankly, I think that this guy, TJ Salon, the French dude that I made a video out a couple weeks ago now at this point, the French Giannis, they're calling him, a guy that didn't put up crazy stats over in Europe, but has some intangibles, has a decent enough jump shot, had some just that potential to be sort of versatile wing scorer, offensive, defensive, two-way guy in the NBA. Just seems like the prototypical player that Masai Ujiri would draft. Now, there was projections that he might land all the way to 19 earlier at this state, but recent weeks, it's been solidified he's likely going to be one of those top sort of selections. I mean, in the Tankathon mock draft, they currently have him at 13th overall. So if we trade up to number 9, I think that's a safe bet for the Toronto Raptors to go after TJ Salon. That seems like the piece that does make the most sense in terms of where the Raptors are at in this point. But Donovan Clingan, if he goes to number 9 for the Grizzlies, that could be another piece at center that the Raptors would be interested in bringing in, because he is just a dude that, from all scouting reports, watching his highlights, that scouts seem to know who he is. Now, Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo on The Ringer recently, given this reports coming out from Kevin O'Connor, another Ringer guy, said that, hey, maybe there's a world where he ends up going top 3 or even number 1. I don't think that's going to be the case given what people are saying about the top prospects, but I don't know if he falls to number 9. If we're really interested, maybe we could add some sweeteners to the Houston Rockets along with Poeltl or Bruce Brown or one of these dudes. But Clingan, if he's there at 9, he's a piece that I think would be interesting. But TJ Salon, especially where the Raptors are looking for a lottery pick, not necessarily top 10, top 7 or anything like that, seems to be the guy that I'd be betting my money on, that Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors are interested in drafting. So that's the news. That's the updates. We'll keep you posted on any of these developments that go on for the Raptors trade situation. So let me know what you guys think about this news, about the Toronto Raptors. Should they trade into the lottery or not? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm signing out. Cheers.